In 24/1, the story we were told was simple. The message coming from the highest levels of power was that an aggressive American tariff strategy would finally bring China's economy to its knees. It was sold as a masterstroke, a necessary shock to a global system that was tilted in Beijing's favor. But they got it completely backwards. The data now shows a stunning reversal. While Washington was waiting for China to buckle, the tariffs were quietly hurting the United States more. So, what did so many people miss? 1. The promise versus the reality. The logic behind the trade war seemed pretty straightforward. If you slap massive tariffs on Chinese goods, you're supposed to get 3 things: bring American jobs back home, punish China for unfair trade, and slow down your biggest competitor. The tariffs were sold as a powerful tool to make the global economy fair for America. The only problem is, that's not what happened. Instead of a boom, the US economy got hit with a major drag. According to the Budget Lab at Yale, the 2025 tariffs are expected to shave about 0.4% off America's long-run GDP. That might not sound like much, but it's like losing up to $120 billion every single year. And what about the jobs they were supposed to protect? Well, models projected the US labor market would actually lose nearly 500,000 jobs by the end of 2025. 2. How the strategy boomeranged. So, why did this whole thing boomerang so badly? It really boils down to a fundamental misread of the modern American economy. Sure, the tariffs gave a small bump to a few manufacturing areas, but those gains were completely erased by much bigger losses in other key sectors. Think about construction and agriculture. They were slammed by China's retaliatory tariffs and the rising cost of materials and machinery. And that pain was felt directly by American families. The price of almost everything went up. One analysis found the tariffs cost the average household thousands in lost buying power. So the very people the policy was meant to help paid the price, both at the store and in a shaky job market. At the end of the day, the tariffs acted like a giant tax on American consumers and businesses, slowing the whole engine down. 3. How China defied the experts. If the US was feeling the sting, why didn't China's economy fall apart like everyone predicted? The answer is a calculated 3-part strategy Beijing used to ride out the storm. First, they used policy to absorb the hit. The Chinese government pushed out a huge fiscal stimulus package and loosened monetary policy to help its businesses and consumers, basically creating a cushion against the tariffs. Second, and this is the crucial part, China didn't just sit there, it diversified. Beijing aggressively shifted its exports away from the US and toward other huge markets like the European Union and Southeast Asia. And it worked. While China's exports to the US fell, its overall exports actually grew, hitting a 7.2% year-on-year increase in July 2025. They proved their export machine wasn't just dependent on American shoppers. And finally, the trade war revealed a simple truth. For a lot of products, the world still needs China. In key industries, China's grip on the global supply chain is so tight that American companies just couldn't find other options, even with the high tariffs. We work hard to cut through the noise and give you the real, data-driven story. If you're getting value out of this, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It really helps us keep making videos that challenge the official narrative. 4. The real winner. Try neither. Now, let's be clear, this doesn't mean China walked away without a scratch. The tariffs did cause damage, slowing their GDP growth and hurting parts of their manufacturing sector. But the main takeaway here is that the story of a US masterstroke crippling China is just that, a story. The trade war wasn't a boxing match where one side wins. It was more like an economic earthquake that shook both countries. For the United States, it showed that tariffs are a blunt and often self-destructive weapon in a world this interconnected. While other factors were also at play in the economy, the tariffs were a major self-inflicted wound. For China, the trade war was a painful lesson, but also a powerful wake-up call. It forced them to speed up their strategic pivot away from depending on the US market, a change that will have consequences for decades. The tariffs were supposed to contain China, but they may have accidentally pushed it to become more resilient and strategically independent. When we look back at the US-China trade war, the real story isn't one of victory or defeat. It's a cautionary tale. The data shows the idea that America could easily strong-arm China into submission was just plain wrong. Instead, the tariffs inflicted real, measurable pain on the US economy, from slower growth to lost jobs. The experts who predicted China's collapse got it backwards because they underestimated China's ability to adapt and overestimated America's immunity to the blowback. It leaves all of us with a pretty important question for the future. In a world where our economies are this tangled together, can anyone really win a trade war? Or do they guarantee mutual pain?